That's the short and sweet video, Brad and Simon. That's the we're late video.
My goodness. You caught me by surprise. I'm like, I was expecting
I know. I was just reading some stuff in the chat, and then boom, we're on.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's short and sweet. That's short and sweet time here on the 5150 Hub. TikTok time to rock. Good to see you guys.
to see you guys.
Yeah.
Got a
Good
show
morning.
today. Great show. Great show today. I watched I was lurking in the chat on Saturday with you guys on the Van Halen show with the delay pedal. I will get one, but not right now. But I will get one. Great job.
Right here, right now. Yeah, it was a great show. Yeah, Chris, with Chris, that was really good. All that, because he's clearly got a lot of knowledge about it, and Les Paul's got one as well. So that was excellent. You can really get in depth about it and talk about it, and then lots of laughs in the second half with John, and I enjoyed that very much. So a lot of laughs in the second half.
Can I say, isn't Chris Gill just a really nice, humble guy? He's just such a, and very respectful to the EVH brand and Eddie Van Halen, and he's respectful to all the artists. Andrew, like when we spoke to him about Jeff Beck that time, he was very respectful, and the Clapton thing, very respectful. It's great to see.
Look, it's a great thing that you point out, Simon and Brad, and also I've got to do a plug for what we do here on the channel together as a collective. He asked to come on. As you guys know, I was telling you guys in the in the green room, it was just going to be John, myself, Jimmy, and Les Paul. Jimmy and Les Paul had the pedals, so it was going to be from their experience. And about a day before, we got the message from Chris saying, "Look, I worked for Roland Boss. I'd love to come on." And so we changed the time, Simon and Brad, to accommodate him to come on because he had dinner reservations and, did a great show and loves hanging out with us. Thinks what we're doing here is really, really good. So thank you, guys. Great views on that. Over 700 views.
They're great. Fantastic.
Yeah, looking really good. Yeah. And over 300,000 views on the channel. We surpassed yesterday, day before.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
Yep. Yeah. By you, Brad. Point by you, bro. That's where the banner is. There it is.
There it is. Which is I'm very pleased and proud about that. 300,000 views. That's I feel good about that. That's fantastic. So well done, boys. Yeah.
Yes, pat on the back, Andrew.
Yeah,
Simon,
well done.
And everyone else part of the channel. Great job. Great job.
Yeah, well done. Well done, guys. There's a couple of things that we're going to do in the shout out department too, folks. Yes. Boochoff has reminded us that in the States you guys are celebrating Father's Day, so it's a little bit different for us in this part of the world and in the UK. So, Simon and Brad, what do we say to fathers around the world?
Happy Father's Day. Yeah.
Yes.
Happy Father's Day. Not Father's Day here in Australia, guys, but we've got to celebrate fathers more than once a year, so why not?
Yeah, happy Father's Day to all the fathers in the States celebrating Father's Day today.
It is Father's Day in the UK today.
Oh, it is? Oh, it is, isn't it? Okay.
No, I thought it was, yeah. I was thinking, I think
Happy
it might
Father's
be. Anyway. Yeah. So all those of us in the UK who are dads.
Happy Father's Day with your new Father's Day haircut.
Yep.
Yeah, you're looking fast.
Look at that. Flash.
You look like a superhero or something.
What an old has-been superhero. Yes, exactly.
From that to this.
Andrew, I've got a shout out too.
Yeah.
One of my favorite albums. Have you got the picture there?
Yeah.
Happy 30th second birthday for unlawful carnal knowledge. I won't abbreviate it because we're going to keep it clean. It's a family show, but it's my favorite Van Halen album. We all have our favorite albums. When we were ranking the tracks on the 5150 show, Andrew, it was quite clear that was my fave. And even to this day, I have to go sometimes a couple of weeks, a couple of months without listening to it because I've heard it that many times. But as soon as I put it on, it's just like pound cake, Judgment Day. It just kicks you in the ass. It's amazing. And well done to Van Halen for making such an amazing record. And I remember lining up for it, Andrew. I'm sure you did as well. I don't know if the Rock Professor did. What did you do? You didn't line up.
Well, I've got a query here because you must have been 5 years old when you were lining up for that album. So Ellen, she mustn't have had any control of you. A 5-year-old running out of the house to go and buy this album, Simon.
I was a rat bag 5-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, where did you go? I went to buy this album.
Yeah. Well, what album did you buy? F-U-C-K.
32 years old. 32 years ago, Simon, and, Brad's talking like he was a veteran lining up, Not like you, lining up for this, eh?
Oh. No, that's right. You see, 55 years ago, I was 10 years old when it came out. So it's I wasn't lining up. There was nowhere to line up in 1968. That was lining up was a thing of the future. In those days, you went to your local record shop, and there it was. It appeared out of nowhere, as if by magic, and then it would be there, and you would say, "Look, a Cream album," and then you would buy it. It wouldn't be in the newspapers for weeks beforehand and line it up. Honestly,
listen,
you new boys.
Back 32 years ago, when For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge was released, we used to line up for records to be put out on the shelves. The record store would open.
See?
They'd get out. Now, I'm going to say something. I'll show you how bad it's gotten. The second or third day after the release of this album, still wasn't on the shelves at JB Hi-Fi, guys. Bad, naughty. I had to they had to pull it from the back of the shop. They had it in boxes at the back. I was like, that's a bit boring, Really?
Did you have a one-man protest, Brad? I am not leaving this shop until you hand over.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, like that, yes.
I was like, I'm not leaving without that damn record, So,
see,
anyway.
Whereas, see, in 1968, none of that applied. It was all magic.
Yeah. John's lining up to get in here. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
He's
don't know what cue that is.
He's welcome. He's welcome anytime. You want to come in?
Yeah, he is.
Yes, John. It's about time you came on and graced us with your presence and led us into doing something. That would be fun.
Looking forward to it. Rock Professor, do you want to do a shout out? We've got 10 people. We've got our quorum.
Yes. We have yes. Derek Clapton, good morning. He's I don't know if Derek he's going to listen today. Excellent. And Ellen as well. Good morning, Ellen. Greg Roberts Tune. Good morning, Greg. Greg apparently has had a visit from the Prime Minister, who sat at his table in the cafe he goes to. So
which one? You guys have had 7 in the last 6 months.
The current
one. Oh, okay.
The current Prime Minister.
Okay.
So if Greg sits on the chair that he sat on, we hope some of the magic rubs off. Johnny Heartbreaker, morning, Johnny. Hope you're good. G Bushnoff, morning, G.
Hey, G.
Happy Father's Day. Yeah. Gretz Zeppelin, of course. Good morning, Gretz. And Hugh Caldwell from north of the border. Morning, Hugh. Who else has made some comments? I think that's everybody who's made comments. Let's just scroll down the bottom. Gretz, Hugh, and John ZD351. Morning, John. Hope you're good.
No problem.
So welcome everybody to the show.
Awesome.
Great.
If you're watching on a replay, folks, and you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do. that would help us greatly. And we also ask as well, don't we, Simon and Brad, that you go and visit our channels page as well and subscribe to everybody there.
Yes.
Yeah. Tim Thomas, good morning.
Go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, please. I need some more followers and bump it up.
Oh, look. Yes, subscribe to Brad.
I'm being cheeky, guys. I don't expect anyone to.
Good.
I'll say this very openly here. I never push or push anyone to subscribe to anything but at this channel, because this is where it all happens.
Yeah.
Nice to get a bit of a business going your way, Brad.
Just I'd like some more views on my videos that I put a lot of money into. That's all. That's the thing. People think, you throw together a video for your song and put it on YouTube. Yeah, whatever. It costs a lot of money to do that professionally. So But anyway, I'm not complaining. It's all good. I'm grateful for the views I've already got. So that's great.
Awesome. Oh, what's Hugh doing here? I collected beer ring pulls. Special offer to buy Journeyman album.
Oh, there you are. Oh, yeah. So you could collect, on cans. So the ring pulls on cans. We could collect some to get albums and stuff.
Wow.
Things people do for promotion.
Oh, like how we used to collect glass bottles of Fanta and Coke, and you take them back into the dairies, and you'd get 3 cents or 5 cents. Oh,
recycling.
Yeah.
I thought you meant.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because all these shitty little skinny kids that run around with the electric scooters that go on about how they're recycling gurus or whatever. We were fucking recycling 30, 40 years ago.
The potty mouth's back.
Oh, get off your orange box, for goodness sake. That's right. Well, did you see that? All those recycling lemonade bottles in 1970? Yes. Once you get a penny or something back on them, didn't you? You got money. As kids roam the streets. Do you know what? Talking to roaming the streets, somebody sent me a link this week that was of. Oh no, it's right. It's fine. Was of some 8mm films that this guy had made in 1969, right? And I was in quite a lot of them. These films doing age. I'll send you the link. You can have a laugh. But
please do.
They're silent. There's like me, age 10 or 11. And this guy clearly done this whole kind of scripted it and everything. Like I don't know what was going on. I have no memory of it. But yes, it's these extraordinary films of me and my brother with his kind of moustache and stuff, and us various other kids doing crazy stuff in the streets. But the really interesting part is all the background cars from 1968 and things. It's like and us playing on kind of wasteland. In the middle of it's like it's a completely different world to the one it is now. Yeah, it's the 1969 version of TikTok. But I'll send you the link. You can have a laugh. They're quite short, but
no problem.
Amazing.
Please
no
do.
memories of it all.
G. Buchoff has got a good point there, because again, I remember bread. We used to get bread, and it was in wax paper. I'm that old.
Yeah.
And wax paper. But they conned us. All the bosses, the globalists, the whole lot. They conned us and said, "Plastic's great." Great.
He's off. Look out. We're in trouble now. Quick, let's get back on topic before Mr. Globalist over here gets us all.
Yes, I think we should pull back on the tracks, boys.
All right, mate.
Yeah, we should stick to what we know. Dear. Marvellous. Look at that.
It's funny to talk about this stuff, but we've got an album to do, fellas. We've got an album to do. So
I know. Lots of well, dear. So the James Gang.
James Gang rides again. We talk about Joe Walsh a little bit on this channel in relation to Led Zeppelin, he introduced Jimmy Page to Les Paul. So why not talk about one of his bands? I mean, I thought it's such a great album. And before sort of do a little intro on the record itself, I'm going to talk about how I discovered this album, and then obviously I'm just going to ask you guys, is this the first listen through, or have you heard it before? Or it'd be interesting to see what you guys have to say. But for me, I would never have known about this album. Maybe later down the track I might have discovered it, but in the early 90s, I found this album. It was introduced to me by my my high school friend. Well, I didn't go to his high school, but my dear friend Luke Foley, his brother Brad Foley, great in that first name, Brad. He loved this album, and he introduced me to a lot of stuff, ZZ Top, all sorts of stuff. But he had this record. It was a white cover with this black writing, and I thought that looks so cool. But what is this? Look, I needed to discover it. He put it on.
Not that one, Brad. That one was it?
No,
that one?
That's the
That
album Rides Again, right there. So for me, I'm intrigued because there's no capital letters. I'm like, what's this James Gang thing? I need to discover this. I asked him to put it on. He put it on, and the first track, I was like, wow! I just got sucked in because I love like rock, funk. I like blues. I like soul music, and I was hearing all this stuff that I love from Zeppelin and David Bowie and Cream. I was hearing all sorts of stuff in here that just excited me. It was like I listened to this album all the way through, and then I put it on again, and I listened to it 3 or 4 times before I actually said anything. I was just like this, because it only goes for 34 minutes or 33 minutes. It's a short album, and I fell in love with this record, and I think I wore out the cassette I had this on because I naughty. I duplicated it onto a TDK tape and ended up buying the album on CD anyway. But for me, there's such good musicianship on this band, and it is a 3-piece band. You keep that in mind when you're listening to it. And when we get into the tracks and the intro and stuff, the band are performing live. A lot of this is live with overdubbing. So you're hearing a band that's tight. They got chemistry. I'll leave the rest of what I want to say about this for during the songs and the intro. But guys, I'll ask you first, Simon. Is this the first time you've heard this album in its entirety? I know you've got James Gang. You just showed us. What's that one? The best of, or
greatest hits. It's but. Yeah, it's got pretty much all of it on there. I don't think there's very much that's not on there, but to be honest, but because it's got 20 tracks on it, 60 tracks. But I first came across. Take yourself back to 1976. If that's possible for you, Brad. 1 year. 1 year. So I am round at my friend Ben Hurdle's house, and in fact, talking of the films that we talked about just now, he's involved in those. So, and he has this album. You go away, please. So this album, which is like,
yes,
I never heard of them, and I borrowed it from him because that was just an album, and I think I heard it. That's when I first heard the James Gang was around his house. So I borrowed it. Then I had my own copy for years, which sadly got lost somewhere in the the mists of moving and things. But yeah, that's where I kind of caught the James Gang really as a band and as an album. That's where I came in, and I think they were then really nobody'd heard of them. I mean, it used to be one of my favorite trivia. What guitarist is in this band that went on to join a really famous band? And nobody would get it because nobody'd heard of the James Gang. And I'd never read anything about them. I don't think in particular. I don't think I'd ever seen any stuff in the music papers about them that I remembered. As a prompter to them at all. And it's weird, as I say, just came out of the blue, had no context to it whatsoever, and there was just this record, and it was a fantastic record, which is why I have this, because it's pretty much just probably a bit of an expanded thing from that. But then then clearly got the albums as well, the first three, and have those. I think I've got some of them in my cupboard behind me. But so yeah, I've that's when I came across them, and I've sort of they have a thing, don't they? They have a particular thing that they do that I think is pretty unique, really. In many ways, I don't think of anybody like them as a three-piece. It's fantastic. So yeah, that's where I came into this. So I've known this record and their stuff for a long time. A long time. Andrew.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this band, guys. I know the first track and another track on the album. I'll be honest with you. I think I said it to you guys the last show that I kind of bypassed the James Gang and picked up Joe Walsh on a solo album, like the Smoky You Drink, with Rocky Mountain Way, and that's kind of where I sort of got into Joe Walsh. And I think the reason why I didn't understand or know anything about this band, even though my mum liked this band, but I never paid much attention to it because I couldn't make the connection because it wasn't radio music. So I know we like to give a bit of crap, don't we, to radio music, but radio music's pretty important during the generations for providing some kind of background to a act or an album or an artist. I agree with you, Simon. A lot of the albums, Brad, that we do on this show, I hear often on classic radio because that's all I listen to when I'm at work if I'm not doing research for the show. James Gang is not on New Zealand classic radio at all.
Right. Yeah. Look, back in the 90s on Triple M here in or Sydney, where I was living at the time, they used to play Funk 49. That was it.
Yeah. And that's the only song I know too, bro. And I think because I think I had some mates that covered it in a band as well. A great song. Yeah.
But you are right. They completely flew under the radar. As I say, I'd never heard of them before this compilation came out of the blue. Yeah. And I agree, Andrew. That they don't get played on the radio. They don't. They have no profile. Certainly in the UK at all.
Yep.
I think a few more people, and as I say, it's still one of the great trivia questions, about Joe Walsh, and people not knowing that he was in this really good band, and they did a lot of interesting stuff. Yeah.
I think a lot of people that are familiar with the Eagles go back and listen to this band.
That's what I did, bro.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Yeah.
If people aren't aware, Joe Walsh, the guitarist singer of the James Gang, joined the Eagles. He joined them later on after the James Gang. So, that's just a little bit of history there. So he's a guitarist of the Eagles. He joined them. The Eagles were already a band at the time. But that's another story. We can talk about that another time. But it's otherwise we'll be here till 5 hours down the track. The last song, guys. I'll quickly. I've just put a little intro together, just quickly on this record. There's not a hell of a lot about the album. There is a lot of the history of the James Gang, which I've kind of just abbreviated to make it nice, short, and sharp. This record was recorded during 1969 at the record plant. It was released in July 1970. It fell under like that sort of hard rock sort of category. As I said, it only goes for about 35 minutes or 36 minutes. And the producer, Bill, I can't pronounce his surname, Bill Schmizmek. Okay? I apologize, Bill, for not pronouncing your name properly there. But it's the second album that James Gang had done. The first one had a different bass player. They did this bass player, Dale Peters. It's his first introduction to the band. From my understanding, when he joined the band, their current bass player at the time was still in the band and he wanted out. And he told them they found the drummer, who's Jim Fox. He's a powerhouse drummer, definitely underrated musician in my opinion. He basically knew Dale Peters from a previous band they were in together, so they got together. The chemistry was already there, so that's why I think this album has such a. It sounds like the band's been together for such a long time, but effectively, Joe Walsh and the drummer Jim Fox have been together with a different bass player, and they had a singer as well, and the singer left. And what happened is Joe Walsh ended up singing. The singer quit an hour before a show, so Joe Walsh just did the singing through the show. And Joe was almost like, I should just concentrate on playing guitar and not singing. But they just stuck with Joe because Joe Walsh was never really confident about his voice. He had a weird voice, and but I think on this album he sings fantastically. So yeah, again, it's a second album. I think that by this point they developed a sound of their own. They didn't really sound like any other band out there. Joe Walsh's songwriting had improved from previous efforts, and obviously, like the new bassist and drummer, they just provided like a powerhouse rhythm section. The two sides of the record are contrasting, but they definitely complement each other. Is the word I'm trying to think of. The first side is a lot heavier and a lot more rock, and the second is a lot more acoustic and a lot more. I guess you could put it. There's folky sort of sounds. There's proggy sort of things going on. There's such an amazing contrast, but they complement each other really, really well. The diversity of the group, it just highlights that for me. The strength of the band is their musicianship. They're amazing, powerful. They're smoking hard rockers on power chords, and then they manage to change gears and they go back to more delicate numbers and everything towards the end. To me, it's amazing to me to think this album was recorded in 1969. I think it was a game changer. This album definitely changed things, sound platforms, and the way many albums sounded throughout the 70s because of this record, I think. Because you think about the records that were coming out in 68, 69, they didn't sound anything like this record. Not by any means. The drum sound, the bass sound, completely different. And obviously 69, Zeppelin had released, their first album. Cream was still around. Hendrix was there. All these influences had amalgamated to get this sound that the James Gang had. And this album didn't do as well, in the charts and things like that. But through the years, it became a cult-like album. People go to this album as their greatest album, the James Gang. So that's all I've really got to say about the record, guys. I hope I covered off enough there. And
cool.
I'd like to get into the tracks. If you guys have got anything else you want to add, now's the time. Simon or Andrew?
No, bro, you did well.
No, I think that's fine. I was just while you were talking about, so I was just reminded. I first came across Joe Walsh when he was on the Old Grey Whistle Test doing Rocky Mountain Way.
Yes.
In 1975. I suddenly remembered. Of course, he was on the Old Grey Whistle Test. So I've just been looking it up. 1975, doing that. Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, well, Joe Walsh stayed in the James Gang for a few years. I think he released 3 albums with them, and then he gave them 6 months' notice to leave the band because he said that he wasn't covering all the sound things, that he can't do everything on his own. He needed a bigger band, and 3-piece thing was too confining to what he wanted to do musically. So I guess joining the Eagles later down the track definitely covered all the sonics that he wanted to probably cover. But he had a very successful solo career as well. So,
yep.
We can always touch on some of his albums later down the track. But the first track is an absolute cracker. It's called Funk 49. And what an album opener. I mean, it's just that funky riff that pans from left to right. They've done that to make it sound like it's 2 guitar players, in my opinion. It's like that call and response thing. But it's such a great guitar tone. The way the drums and the bass come in, it's so classy. The way they've done it, like Dale Peters on bass, the way he plays, he's moving around. There's a lot of funk going on, but he's keeping it straight down the line. Jim Fox on the drums, what an amazing drummer. He certainly plays straight and keeps the beat, but his drum fills and everything are just epic. I think he was, I personally think he's a very underrated drummer. No one really talks about him like the way they talk about guys like Mitch Mitchell, John Bonham. I can hear elements of Mitch Mitchell in his playing. I don't know if you guys picked up on that. I can hear elements of John Densmore, and I can hear elements of John Bonham in there. But he's got his own sound and own approach, and I love that. There's some real funky playing going on in this song. The band's really tight. That rundown in the song, that's great. And then it does the, two semitones up. This that down, and that bass line under it. It's just epic. I think I'm hearing bands of the era, like I'm hearing a little bit of Zeppelin, I'm hearing a little bit of Deep Purple, I'm hearing Hendrix. There's probably other ones I'm missing. Joe Walsh's voice just sounds fantastic. There's some very cheeky lyrics in this song about a wild girlfriend he had. Yeah. I'm sure we've all been there previously. This is a three-piece in fine form. You talk about three pieces being wonderful in a sense of lots of space sonically. This song is definitely a vehicle for Joe Walsh. I'm hearing Joe Walsh is projecting himself into the music scene, going, "I'm here. I'm a great singer. I'm a great guitarist." Joe Walsh explained some writing of the song. This is what he said. He said, "I came up with the basic guitar lick. The words never really impressed me intellectually, but they seem to fit somehow. It was a real good example of how we put things together, bearing in mind it was a three-piece group. And I don't think that there was any overdubbing. The only thing we really added was percussion in the middle part, which is the three of us actually played it, putting some parts on top of the drums. But that's the three-piece James Gang, and that's the energy and kind of symmetry we were all about." I have to give this song 100 out of 10. It's an absolute cracker. Absolute cracker. Simon,
Brad score.
I think you're next, Simon.
Yeah, Brad, straight in with the Brad score. Yes,
Simon, just before you do that, I just want to say thanks to the moderator. There's a few of you here for getting rid of that that wanker that we had in the chat. Appreciate it. We don't want any of that crap in the chat. Thank you.
Glad I didn't see it.
No, it's gone. I think John hurled him out, probably on his ear. Well done.
Good work.
Thank you, guys, for that. Yeah, I mean, to me, Funk 49, not to be confused with Funk 48, and there was a Funk 48 as well. But it's, for me, it's like almost the definition of rock funk, isn't it? I mean, you use that phrase, not funk rock, but rock funk, and that way round of describing it. And I think that's the perfect definition of this. It's, it's a fantastic riff, isn't it? And that descending thing and that bow, bow, bow bit that they do, just such a strong, opener, and it has a, has a kind of sound of its own, doesn't it? And there's nobody, I don't think of Joe as as anybody else playing quite like that with that sound. Could I say it's a great sound, isn't it? Apparently it's a Telecaster and a tweed and a black-faced champ. There we are. That's what he's playing through for all you gear fiends out there. Not the Les Paul apparently, but yeah, it's a Telly. No, not always, but that's interesting. I'm sure you've got stuff on that, Brad. But so I think it's fantastic. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It's got, it doesn't have a guitar solo. It has a kind of drum percussion solo, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As a kind of thing, which is I think a sort of mark of it really is that this is not about, there's not many really kind of expansive guitar solos on this record. You know, this doesn't have one at all. It's just got that, you know, it's just got that you know, that feel, that vibe to it. You know, sort of, as you say, the vibe of a band playing in the room together. You know, that's fantastic, and it's a Brad score for me. 100 out of 10. Never skip. One of their classics. You can't go wrong, and you know, with this track, and you know exactly where you are, Andrew.
Yeah, it's the best album, best track on the album. I've got to say, in my opinion, you know, there's a couple of other good ones on here, but yeah, it's an epic song. It's a song I knew beforehand, Brad. So when I put this on, I knew the title. So, you know, I hadn't listened to it for a long time. It's great. You know, that crunchy guitar that you guys have mentioned already, it's just epic. It's the beginning of that great sound that we get right through the 70s, Brad, as you already said. You know, and it began around this time, you know, that 66, 67, 68 period. Matured a little bit, 69, 70. It's fantastic. I love the vocal harmonies as well, Simon. The vocal harmonies that come through on the song, very clever. Look, shoot me, guys, if I'm wrong or if I'm off the beat here. But that 133 sort of Santana groove that's going on, is can somebody get rid of this guy Adam Hurley? There's a lot of moderators here. Get rid of this guy Adam Hurley, someone please.
I thought John had.
Yeah, I thought I had too. At that 133 mark, guys, you've got that Santana groove. And the Stones even did it with Can't You Hear Me Knocking at around 1970 as well, Brad. So I'm just thinking in the back of my mind when I was listening to this how important or influential that Santana kind of thing was even back then on some of these bands. Epic song, infectious groove. It's a Brad score. I bought the album.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great album. It's a great album, and this is like such a great opening song for the album. I personally, I think if you're gonna release like a record, you really need the first three tracks to suck people into it, you know. And I love how from Funk 49, it sort of gravitates and comes into Ashton Park, which is the second song, and it's like a continuation or a I don't know what you call it, like a prequel. Sorry, a second part of the song, like a part two, and that guitar is drenched in delay. Sounds fantastic, and it is a fantastic display of melody created instrumental and amazing controlled guitar playing from Joe Walsh. You know, if you think about an instrumental guitar band, the guitarist can overplay and do too much, and there's nothing wrong with that. We love a guitarist that goes off, but it takes a lot of control and effort to not overplay in an instrumental. I can think of some amazing examples, but this is one. Joe just plays what's needed for the song. The band's really tight. The drums and bass are locked in. Joe's floating over the top of the band. It sounds live to me. The whole thing sounds live. The drums and bass are locked in. The trails of the delay are like perfect. Have you noticed that, Simon? That the delay, the trails on the delay are like perfect in time with the song. It's just it's epic. I think I can't really hear any guitar overdubs or anything. I think it's just a three-piece playing again live. It's a wonderful display of a mighty three-piece in my band, and yeah, I gave this a 10 out of 10. It's I still see it as part of Funk 49. I see it as part of Rock Professor.
See, I didn't, and that's okay. All right.
No, neither did I, but that's fine. That's cool. But you are right. It is, and one of the things, and we'll get into this, is that how much kind of what I think, you know, we're talking about, you know, 1969, 1970, how much kind of experimental stuff Joe Walsh did. This kind of that long delay echo stuff. That's like the Edge, isn't it? But 20 years before he did it, and I don't think he's particularly influenced by. I don't think the Edge was particularly influenced by him, but that kind of, as you say, Brad, that kind of precise playing of it, so that it it all beautifully lines up. It's by the way, Ashton Park is where my secondary school. So this is a tribute to my secondary school. I think not. Wow. But yeah, that my secondary school was called Ashton Park. Yeah, I know. Yes, it's more linked to it, Ashton Park, but. So yeah, but it is a showcase for that long delayed echo layered guitar, and I think you're right. I don't think there's any overdubs. I think he just does it, and the drums and the bass hold it down. It's a fantastic little vignette. I call it a vignette. Between the first track and then kind of palate cleanser kind of thing. But really interesting that they've chosen to put this kind of track in after the first track. And clearly I read, that they had thought, they did a lot, they thought about the programming of it. Absolutely. They decided how it was going to be programmed. And yes, I mean, I think this is a slighter piece of it. I'm giving it 8 out of 10, but I would never skip it. And I think it's a fantastic display of that kind of playing and that precision play that I don't think anybody else was doing at that time. I can't think anybody else doing it quite this way at that time at all. Off the top of my head, maybe that's a bit early for John Martin and stuff. So. Anyway, Mr. Walton, what say you?
Alan's giving some good scores as usual. Thank you, G, for the kind comments about the Trolls. Yeah, I suppose it's one thing that the channel has to be mindful of as we grow. We spoke about this a few times. When we were about 500 or 600 member guys, we got hit by trolls too, didn't we? Yeah. So they, it's part and parcel of what we do. Brad, I made a mistake.
Zero tolerance.
Yeah, go. Yeah. We're not here to pander to your inadequacies.
No, we want to make it a comfortable place and a safe place for everyone in the chat. We haven't got time for it. We're not going to acknowledge you. We're just going to block you and see you later. Yep. You're out.
Yep, gone. Jog on, as they say in the UK. My problem is I did not relate this to the first track, and I can see why Brad's given it such a high score. I ranked it as a separate track. It's a freaky number. And that tape delay on the guitar is amazing. So they would have used a tape delay machine. There was no digital back then, Simon and Brad, so you guys are right on the money. My co-hosts are right on the money here, sorting out that tape delay to get it to reverb back and sound like another guitar. Brad and Simon, we've read about this, how guys have done that even in the in the late 50s when guys were trying to do that. It wasn't easy to do. It's a technical piece of recording engineering that they've done on the second song. And because of that, it's got an extra mark from me. I love the snap that they get on the toms. It's a snazzy kind of snap that they're getting. I like that. I've given this 8 out of 10 like the Rock Professor Brad. Never a skip. A marvellous piece of musical, what is it? A musical enterprise, Simon.
I don't want to summarize, but I will say this: when I listen to this album, it is like it's got like a bit of a theme to it. That's why I see those two songs as like one, because it kind of taper into each other. Yeah, and that's how I see it. And just a little funny little thing. The song always reminded my friend Luke Foley of a.
I know.
You're gonna have to get. Brad. You're gonna have to get him on one day. The fabled Luke Foley. Who is Luke Foley?
It reminded him, and it used to remind him of a different kind of hug.
Yeah.
Music.
Oh.
And that's how you got your nickname too. One of the reasons. Come on.
Right,
my Lord.
moving on, moving on, moving on. So talking about hubs, Woman, the next song.
Yep.
Wow, I love a great bass guitar intro, and this one just just makes you want to pick up your bass and play along. It's a great one. Followed by the way the drums come in, and then the guitar has that sludgy feel on guitar. Joe sings fantastically in this song. It's a great song. Has some Black Sabbath vibes for me. I'm hearing like early Black Sabbath, the first album, and maybe even Paranoid. I'm hearing those two albums here in this song. Great lyrics. I think he's written some fantastic lyrics. It's a fantastic song for the third position on the album. You hear a great classic Joe Walsh guitar solo in this song. I'm hearing little snippets and influences of Clapton, Jimmy Page, even Jeff Beck from the Yardbirds. I'm hearing that in his solo here. The rhythm section are really tight. It allows for that music to breathe. But we're also hearing some menacing drum fills from Jim Fox. Like we talk about Bonzo and his drum fills, like in '69 on the first record. There's a bit of comparison going on with drummers of that 69, 70. They're all sort of using that Mitch Mitchell vibe, but playing bombastically like Bonham. And this guy has got his own thing going on. And this song really highlights Jim Fox on drums. The outro of the song is actually my favorite part of the song. There's amazing guitar work from Joe and multi layers of overdubbing guitars as the band opens up. Like they were really tight all the way through. And then the last part of the song, they sort of open up a little bit more, like they're breathing, because I know the song's coming to the end. And I get excited about this song. I give it 10 out of 10. It's a fantastic song and just an amazing third song in Rock Professor.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. That rhythmic, start just gives it that kind of groove and everything. Just it's all there, isn't it? In just those two notes at the beginning, And again, it kind of, for me, it's the second. If you're gonna, normally you'd put this track after Funk 49, and you'd go, "There's an opener for you," and clearly it is following on from that in that funky, rocky way. As you say, this time it's got kind of overdubbed guitars on it and stuff, and I think. It is a lesson, isn't it, in how to overdub guitars, and not too much, just enough to make it dynamically interesting, enough to give it some color, just the bits that you put in as and that thing about having a rhythm guitar and then having a lead guitar over the top of it as well. It gives it, the depth and things, but but still leaving the space. It's not, it's not completely sort of crammed in. I think it's got very bluesy, expressive solos and things that Joe plays. This is where he, does his solos, and you can see what a great guitar player he is. And yes, it's 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip, and a great third track.
Hugh says 10 out of 10. It's a banger.
Banger.
Alan's given it 9.5 out of 10. What is it, guys, about rock and roll and woman? We did a track last week where there's a song called Woman.
They despite what women think, they do dominate our thoughts, and we do really care about women. So that's why a lot of music is written about women. Is that a good answer, guys? I think I answered it perfectly.
So when you go off to a gig or whatever, or if you're listening to music or whatever, you say, well, look, I am really thinking about you, because half the songs are about women. So I can't escape you.
That's
easy.
That's it. That's it. No, that's it.
Seriously, I love Joe Walsh's. The first thing that struck me about this track, guys, and I popped my cherry to Joe Walsh on this track, so... I hadn't heard the song. But one thing that became apparent to my ears, Brad, was the youthfulness of Joe's voice on this track. that I didn't quite pick up on the previous tracks, if you can understand what I mean. And it was like, oh, because he's kind of, it wasn't that long after this album came out where he sort of developed that raspiness, I think, and accentuated that Simon. And obviously his lifestyle, rock and roll, kind of caught up with him and, added to that dimension of the voice. But on this track, I like that youthfulness of it, and those jets of that guitar sound that comes over, that comes in through one ear on this song. It's remarkable. Hold on, my clip is blocking that note. And I dig the groove, Brad.
Yeah,
I dig the groove on this track, guys. I haven't given it quite a high score as you guys have. I've got to stick to my guns here. I've given it an 8 out of 10, but it's never a skip.
Shock horror probe.
Still a good score.
Cheers, brother.
I'm trying not to be biased on this one, but the first 3 tracks are the crackers. There's a couple more coming up, but yeah, it's still a good score, Andrew. 8 out of 10. There's nothing wrong with that. If it was 6, I'd probably time you out, but you know what I mean. It's,
Hey, Holly.
Morning, Holly. Morning, Q.
So from Woman, we go to Bomber, the Bomber, and it's got a medley in it. The Closet Queen, Bolero, Cast Your Fate to the Wind. It's a 7-minute song, 7 minutes, 4 seconds. And I'll say it's 7 minutes, 4 of greatness. They had some legal ramifications with this song with the melody, the Bolero. In it. But by the time it came out on CD, they were able to add it because it had crossed that 60-year mark since the original was written. So they could, they could put it in there. Yeah. So that's why it's on this now.
Funny.
It's a massive power chord intro and some absolute power drumming leads that song. The guitar sound is awesome. It's a guitar cranked through an amplifier. It's just, that's what you're hearing. And whether there's something else pushing it, it might be a boost or something like that, but it sounds like it's just absolutely ripping the paint off walls. That's how loud it sounds to me. It's a journey, this song. There's some brutal drumming in it. There's some brutal drumming. The bass playing is fantastic, and Joe's guitar work is great. Joe's voice on this, he takes a little different approach with the vocal approach, and he sounds fantastic. The song is a journey, like I said, around the 124. It leads to some beautiful playing from the bass and drums, while Joe Walsh shows off his incredible guitar slide playing, which we know from Rocky Mountain Way and things like that. He's a great slide player as well, and this is no exception. 3 minutes 33 takes on that Bolero, which was drenched in delay. That delay sound is, later tonight when I get a chance, if I do, I'm going to sit down with my Strymon timeline and try and mimic that delay tone. It's just fantastic. I'm excited about it. It's great. 4 minutes 51 leads into the Cast Your Fate to the Wind, and it's a delight. It's the band are tight. I'm assuming this is all live in the studio. Then it comes like 6 minutes, the Bomber comes back in, and it's all power again. Joe singing again with that power and conviction. It's an epic song and one of the highlights of the album for me. This song grew on me. More and more I listen to it, the more and more I love this. Again, I have to give this 100 out of 10. Never a skip. Simon.
Yeah, it is. It's an epic piece, isn't it? But clearly thought out and constructed in a way out of it. It's not an improvisation piece. It's a composed piece. Where they've just decided how they're going to run it and sticking to the format, which I think is interesting. But I think it's that what amazed me, and these tracks stick in my mind in a really odd way, because I think of them as being quite experimental for that time. Again, I can't think of anybody else who constructs this sort of, this is a 7-minute piece, puts this together with the three parts, is a kind of thing. I think maybe the influence I hear is a bit of Pete Townsend in there. Maybe the Who, that kind of construction bit, but no, and those kind of power chords is not really played like Pete Townsend, but it kind of that kind of those kind of major power chords kind of thing is quite a Townsend thing, or I think it is a bit. But I think it's beautifully constructed. I think the drums. I think that. Don't you think he comes from that tradition of there's a jazz background to all of this, and they've combined the jazz, and they've put the rock bit into it, but actually, as you said with Mitch Mitchell and Ginger Baker, I wrote down drums like Ginger Baker kind of thing because that's what I hear, that kind of cream, that influence of Ginger Baker, but that's a jazz influence. That's and all those guys, Bonham, Baker. All those drummers they all had that, didn't they? They all had that kind of jazz influence thing, which is, I think that they keep the textures. Don't you think the guitar sounds on this are just brilliant? I just they thrill me. I don't know what he's doing that's different to other people, but it seems to have its own sound, and it seems they just those power chords that he plays, you just go yippee, or I do anyway. That kind of opening stuff, it's thrilling.
I agree.
Absolutely thrilling, and there's nothing wrong with the kind of EDA kind of major chords kind of thing. And as I say, because there's not, because it's 1969, 1970, there's plenty of room for those chords to really bloom in the mix, in the sound. It's kind of because there's not 15 other things going on. It's just that. So I love the sound of it. As you've said about the slide guitar, I think Joe can play everything, can't he? Slide, play acoustic, he can play electric. He can seemingly he can do them all brilliantly. Swine. So, and this is a fantastic showcase for his guitar playing. The bolero bit is that much more gentle kind of, where he plays the melody, completely unlike the heavy riffing of the bomber. And then he's got those. He's got that kind of. I presume it's a guitar playing through a Leslie. It sounds like an organ, but it might be an organ. I don't know. I haven't. I've done quite a lot. I can't actually work. Nobody actually says what it is. I can't find where that is. So I don't know whether it's. So it's got to be Leslie. Do you think is it a Hammond though, Andrew? Do you think it's a Hammond?
Got to be Leslie.
Yeah, I went back and forth with it. That's an organ. Then you start having doubts. A second you go, maybe it's not, because he does play with a Leslie. He does play the guitar to a Leslie. So and you go, well, he can't. Really? No, it's not. So anyway, I'm going with an organ. So which is fantastic playing. It comes in another completely different kind of. But it's quite heavy, isn't it? It's not light. It's not like Booker T or anything like that. It's kind of got that John Lord's kind of growl to it. Yeah. That I think is fantastic, and then you're, as you said, Brad, back to the heavy riffing at the end. I gave this a 10 out of 10. Never a skip. I think it's a fantastic achievement. I think it has, as I say, the compositional credit that I'm giving it is very high. I think as a worked out piece thing.
Yeah,
Andrew.
Yeah, you guys are fantastic with your scores. I'm just going to round out a couple of points. I've got an SG there, folks, set up permanently for slide and open E. Love Joe Walsh. I just mentioned that in the chat earlier to G. There's a wonderful video of Joe Walsh, I think about 15 years ago, talking about slide, teaching slide with his humour. And as you guys said, Joe Walsh's slide guitar work that he did on his solo albums, Brad, and what he did with Eagles was just remarkable, just in a tone and a league of his own. So for me to hear this a week ago freaked me out, yes. Because this is the earliest part of the slide playing that I heard, of Joe Walsh. All these names in my head. And holy moly, it's just fantastic, isn't it? It's just a remarkable piece of work, and that wobble from ear to ear. Again, I love that, Simon. You know, the way that they used stereo back then to the full effect. You know, it's as a tool back then. I love that. You got a serious Joe on this song, Brad.
Oh,
you know, you got a serious Joe on this number. That lush percussion sound with the rides and the toms and that snap snare. Simon, you hit the nail on the head. The Ginger Baker British jazz kind of thing coming through there, riding on there. I heard that too. But the bass tone, not the bass playing, but the bass tone could have just been a little bit more punchier just to back it up a bit. Just, you know, just to my ear. And look, because of that, Brad, I hope you're not going to put me in timeout. Because of that, I've given it 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah,
it's a remarkable song.
Yeah, 9.5.
That's a timeout. No, I'm joking. No, that's a good score. Good score.
Practically a criminal offence.
That's actually
underrated.
Oh yes, that's actually the halfway point, guys. That's at the end of side A. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to show some photos, Andrew, or you want to continue on and show photos later. But I think it'd be a good time to show some photos if you're ready.
No problem at all, bro. I will do that right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, this week's photo montage is brought to you by these two handsome young fellas.
Actually, that young fella on the right just did he performed at the National Theatre in St Kilda today as part of a stage production, and
yeah,
very proud of him today. He did an
fantastic.
Amazing. He did a performance of Hair with a big group of people, and he did a performance of what was the other one he did?
He did a performance of Hair, did he? Well, I hope he kept his clothes on. You don't want that. Nobody wants that.
One song. Just it's a stage show he's part of, and then there was another song I can't think of, and then they ended with a massive all the kids part of the stage show. They all came out and sung Time Warp, which was quite moving.
Excellent, fantastic.
Yeah, very, very moving. So I'm very, very proud of that young gentleman. He did an amazing
very
job.
cool.
Okay, all right. So just bear with me for 2 seconds before I show some photos, because I think this is really important. Hold on.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, so we went from this album cover, albeit 2 years, and then we went to this album cover, to the minimalist album covers approach. Interesting, isn't it? Because there are a lot of albums around that 1970 mark that were trying to make a distinct break from the psychedelic movement, Simon and Brad.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very plain album cover, isn't it? Like, I personally think that might have contributed to its lack of success. I'll be honest with you.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, not in keeping with the times. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot, and I'll say it like this, a lot of albums that I purchased back in my younger years when I'd never heard of the band before, the album cover intrigued me so much, I ended up buying the album just to hear it.
Yeah, good point. Good point, bro.
And also, it's not, by no stretch of the imagination, is it a psychedelic album, is it?
No.
It isn't.
No. Far from.
It doesn't pick up on that sort of vibe at all, as far as I'm thinking about it. Anyway, yes, it's more of a 70s rock album than it is a 60s psychedelic rock album, isn't it? It's not really got anything to do with that.
100%.
Awesome.
Good spot.
That's the back cover there, Brad.
Yep, that's the back cover. So you got Joe Walsh on the right. So he's the one. He's the singer. He's the one who ended up joining the Eagles. And on the other side there, on the rhythm section, are on the other bike. So you've got Dale Peters. So That's the band, and it's just enough. These are all promo shots. I tried to, find as many live shots as I could, Andrew. There was not a lot of
No,
this lineup, so
I had a look too. So I just kept with the ones that you sent through, bro. And there's a live shot there.
Yep. So it's a live shot, and it's interesting while you're showing these photos. Without summarising again, Rock Professor, what you said about the Who and Pete Townsend. It's interesting because they opened for the Who, and so that definite influence would have been there, 100%.
Well, Pete Townsend took him back to the UK, and Pete Townsend said to everyone in the UK that this American cat's the best guitar player in America.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
That's so you got on the far left.
That's Andrew, Simon, and Brad.
I'm the Joe Walsh. Am I? Like I was Eric Clapton in that Beano picture.
Yep.
So unfair.
Yep. No, that's the 5150 show. Back in the day. Back in the day. Yeah. So the one with the glasses is the drummer, Jim Fox. Dale Peters with the dark moustache and sideburns that join each other. And
the Dwayne Allman mutton chops, yes.
Yeah. And the middle guy, Joe Walsh. Just a lot of the band, and I mean they're very cool looking band, really. Sometimes it's not about the sound; it's about the look too. I'm joking.
That's it, bro.
I'm joking. It's not necessarily always the way, but I think looks are important of a band. Like how their image is something that you saw change through the years, the 60s, 70s, even the 50s and 40s. The attire that bands wore, it draws you in. I've always said to guys that I work with, especially in original bands, when you walk in that venue to play, people have got to know you're in the band. They don't want to see you up on stage in a t-shirt and jeans like the rest of them. They want to see you, I mean, if that's your attire for the band, then that's cool, but make them look better than everyone else is what I'm saying. So, but back in these days, they all just had that cool image vibe going because the fashion was a big thing in the 60s, late 60s and 70s, wasn't it? Really?
Mm-hmm.
It was a really big thing. So we go to the start of side 2, Tend My Garden. So it's, for me, I'm hearing with this intro, the organ, I'm hearing Your Time Is Going to Come by Led Zeppelin. I'm hearing that. It's like, I'm thinking, I wonder. And I just left it at that. I didn't want to draw too much into that. There's definitely a more laid back feel on this song than the previous songs. So side 2 starting off with a more of a delicate vibe. It's got a great melody to this song, and the vocal is fantastic. I am hearing like 70s George Harrison vibes going on in this song. I'm hearing, Clapton as well. I'm hearing a little bit of Derek and the Dominoes, maybe. I don't know if you guys picked up on this as well. Or maybe it's just because I've been listening to them as well. I don't know. The band are right in the pocket. They know exactly what they're playing for this song. Joe Walsh adds some stellar background vocals on this. I love the hand claps. I love that. Yeah. The piano section is epic. I'll put that there. Great bass playing behind the piano section. Then the solo launches and the drums are beast-like. They're just like, he's just going crazy on the drums. Amazing. And immediately it drops back at about 4 minutes, 5 seconds to that mellow vibe of the song. Look, I love this song. I had to give it 9.5 out of 10. It's a great contrast from the first side as well, gentlemen. Rock Professor.
Yes, it is. It's another one of those what I would call composed pieces. Yeah, with with definite sections in it. And as you say, starts off with that, that you see, it's a new thing, that organ thing. I've introduced it in the last track on side one, and it continues into this. It's a new instrument, and it was kind of hadn't been there before. But you can tell that it's been constructed in a way, as you say, just the piano break in the middle, just a piano, just as that. I've not heard any piano before, and it just gives it that break gives it a bit of lightness and a bit of that change. I think this is, I love this sort of thing. Even though I know it's constructed and it's not jammed, and that's why I say it's very much a more of a 70s album than a 60s one, because it's not what I would call jamming on here. It's more, I've read it in the, there's some details about it, and they definitely did construct it with Bill Simzik. Put this together the way that these things are going to be put together, and I think that those dynamics are really cool. I think having the organ, the piano, and then you just have that breakdown with the piano, the cymbals, and just the muted bass, and you've got a solo. And you've got the organ, you've got the sort of hand claps at the end, the kind of, to hit that classic at the end, as you said, Brad. This is 9 out of 10 from me and never skip. I think it's a fantastic kind of atmospheric, dynamic composition. It's not often I use the word composition on these shows, but I feel that about these longer tracks is they're composed and organised. And that's good, by the way, not bad. So 9 out of 10 for me, never a skip. Andrew.
Okay. Brad mentioned Led Zeppelin, and I get that. I'm going to make it a little bit more contemporary, Brad, and I'm going to say that U2 ripped this off. On their Unforgettable 5, they've got a lot of like Bad and another song on there that'll come to my mind. It's got that kind of atmospheric kind of keyboardy riff going on. That's what I can hear. I can hear the connection. And after you said Led Zeppelin, I can dig that as well. The keys are super cool, aren't they, Simon, on this? It adds, the rock professor loves, ladies and gentlemen, total contrasts. Light and day.
Night and day.
Warm. I mean, warm and cold and all that kind of shit, He loves
warm and cold. Could I say hot and cold?
Hot and
warm and cold.
Okay. Boy, and you certainly get, you're getting a contrast with this song, Brad, aren't you?
Yeah.
Guys, I haven't rated this as high as you guys have. Look, I dig the song. I get where it's coming from. I have to agree with the Rock Professor's summation that this is definitely a 70s thing. I love that. And like the Rock Professor said too, I read an article yesterday where it was, this is a worked out album. And again, we dig that. So I've got to back the Rock Professor up there on my research. 7 out of 10, never a skip though.
7?
All right, you scraped in, Andrew. You just scraped in.
Cheers, mate.
Yes. I tell you
Handing
what.
out 7s, blimey.
Okay, next song, Garden Gate. I see it like a bit of a continuation, actually, and it does sort of bleed into Tend My Garden at the end of it, the way it sort of intertwines, so the way they sort of join. This is why I say this album's got like a bit of a theme to it. So the first song, obviously, on side 2 is Tend My Garden. The next one's Garden Gate. And we love acoustic vibes on this channel. We love acoustics. And what a great acoustic recording, the way they've recorded the acoustic guitar. It sounds fantastic. It sounds like a little bit of an open tuning on it or something there. There's something going on because it's got a low E and it's down to D or something. I haven't worked it out, but it's dropped. And I absolutely love the way, and when I think about it, I don't know if this may be the first time this is ever done, that reverse reverb vocal that comes in on Joe's voice in the first line. Goes, the way it comes in. I can't think of an album for this where a vocal has that. They call it like a reverse reverb. And if anyone's familiar with the Coverdale Page album, the Shake My Tree, I don't want the way that's the effect. That's what they've done. And back here, it would have been a lot harder to achieve because they would have had to reverse tape, I think. I don't know. I would have to look into that. But I love that part. Joe's singing great on this. Lyrically, it's very clever. How good does Joe play an acoustic guitar? It's fantastic. I'm a huge fan of this style of acoustic playing, and I'm a big fan of this song Garden Gate. I gave it 8.5 out of 10. Simon.
Yeah, it is. It's a little, what I would call a little vignette, really, is a in terms of what it does after the first track was quite big, and I like the fact that they put something quite simple, just an acoustic guitar thing and a bit of singing with some I don't know, it's clearly probably the other way around, but it kind of in that style that Leo Kottke plays. I hear some Leo Kottke in there, in that kind of open tuning kind of thing that he does, and the singing as a kind of. I'm sure I'm making a very tenuous connection now because I don't think Leo I know he's playing in the 1970s. I think he's more mid-70s than that. But I like that kind of folk bluesy kind of that open tuning thing. I think it's fantastic. It's a whimsical little number, isn't it? I like the harmonics as well. It's really nice. But as you say, he can play acoustic really well. He can play electric. Fantastic. It's like so you could do them all, Joe. Can you? Well done. It's I gave it 7.5 out of 10, but it's never a skip, and I think it's a really nice contrast to what has gone before, but also the kind of it's a gateway into a kind of different vibe for the rest of the tracks. If I can preempt it in a way, so I think there's something in the title there, isn't it? I've been going through the gate to a slightly different place. I don't know if I'm making this up, but that's what it feels like to me. So seven. Yeah, it's kind of, you get that feeling, don't you, that he's called Garden Gate, and it's about going through a gate into a different place. So, as I say, so I gave it 7.5 out of 10, but never a skip. Andrew.
Good night, G. Thanks for hanging out for us. Thanks for the nice comments. Great show.
Yeah,
thank you. Means a lot to us. Yeah, Brad, you're right. We do love acoustic tracks on these albums, and most of them, thankfully, that we hear are pretty darn good, and this is a very, very good one. Brad's hit the nail on the head there. There's something with that bottom E on. Yeah. I was trying to work it out too. Is he hammering on from like when they do a G run from the G to the G sharp? But no, I think it's tuned down, Brad. I think you're right. Yeah. Good ear, brother. And I have to agree with you. An incredible guitar player. He's not playing bluegrass. He's strumming away well, but he's hitting those notes, plucking those notes, which is good. And then there's a couple of little pieces in there where he's strumming quite nicely as well. So, articulating his playing, which is a good thing. You even get harmonics, Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Jimmy Page.
Yeah. So beginning, it's sort of kind of beginning at that time of the harmonics, because you didn't get a lot of that. I'm just thinking out aloud. If it's okay, I want to. I don't even think that Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young were doing a lot of harmonics, were they?
Not that I'm familiar with.
No. No. So and maybe what's that blonde girl? She came from Canada and made it. Joni Mitchell. Joni Mitchell was doing maybe some of that kind of stuff.
Maybe
she was doing alternative tunings and all sorts of things.
Yeah. But But what one thing, Brad and Simon, that struck me when I heard this is, this is pretty groundbreaking for a little ditty, you know. So, I love it. I love the song. I listened to it a couple of times when I first heard it. 8 out of 10, Brad. Never a skip.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think we're all.
It's interesting that, isn't it? That it's, you know, even the slight pieces have something in them that is, you know, of interest, something different, something to keep your interest going. So, you know, I think that's cool. Sorry, Brad.
Thank you.
No, that's all right. So the next track up the Garden Gate is There I Go Again, and another fantastic acoustic vibe song with some clever electric guitar overdubs to fatten accents of the song. Great mellow vibes. I can see how Joe Walsh was a great fit for the Eagles, you know, whom he joined later in his career from this song. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely.
Eagles sort of music irrelevant.
I'll tell you why.
I'm going to leave that for Andrew. I've touched on it. I'm leaving it. I'm going to leave that. I love the pedal steel from the guy Rusty Young. There's some great pedal steel in this. The bass and drums are perfect for the song, and another great lyrical song as well. I enjoy the mellow vibes as much as I enjoy the belting songs from earlier in the album. And like I said, the first part of the album, 3 or 4 songs of belting, and then the contrast is it's still the same band, but there's a little bit more texture and dimension to the songs. I think this song certainly deserves 8 out of 10 and never a skip. Rock Professor.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, you know, from what I read, they designed this album so the first side will be rock and the second side will be much more acoustic. They absolutely programmed it like that deliberately as a thing. As you've said, Brad, country vibe, you know, definitely has a country thing, especially with the pedal steel. But I think, you know, again, it's another, you know, not had pedal steel in any of the other tracks. All of a sudden, you've got this kind of, you know, piece of just fresh instrumentation to, you know, to keep the interest going. I like those sorts of things, and I think back in 1970, that's why, you know, that's how you introduce dynamics and things into, you know, because it wasn't all the effects and all the other bits and pieces. So, you know, so I think it's and as you say, I think it's, you know, that country-ish vibe together with what's gone before. You can see why he was such a perfect fit for the Eagles in that, you know, with both sides of his playing, his abilities with acoustic and electric guitars. I think I like the, as you said, Brad, the bass and drums great. I think the double track vocals are really cool as well. Yeah, definitely double tracking the vocals. That gives it an extra dimension too. I give this an 8 out of 10. Never a skip. It's a great little song. Fantastic. Andrew.
Yeah, look, I agree with you guys. I think the melody is fantastic on the song, and I'll offer what I think my theory is, Brad and Simon, with you guys. When I heard this song, it's the only track on this album, in my opinion, that has a radio-friendly vibe. So the connection that you made, bro, with Walsh and the Eagles had that country, and they were the first band to take it and put that stuff on the radio. So Joe Walsh, when he came into the Eagles, they already had that sort of foundation, didn't they? But he took them from the stratosphere to Mars, didn't he? With his influence, and I think he already had that sensibility. That sense for melody and what was going to sound good from a popular perspective back, obviously, with the James Gang. And I think that's why that fit was so great. You know, the Eagles with Joe, for me, is the epitome. I love it. I think it's a clever song, the way they've crafted it. I agree, again, with what the Rock Professor said. We must have read the same article. I love the fact that they put thought into the song placings on this album. I've given this 8.5 out of 10, Brad. Love the song.
Beautiful. So from Here I Go Again, we go to the next song, which is Thanks. And another acoustic vibe song. Great melody and singing. The song has many textures. The electric guitar is beautiful in this song. Lyrically, this song invokes a lot of thought and retrospective thought for me, which is very clever. And Joe's a great lyricist, and yeah, this song he's written some fantastic lyrics. If you haven't really concentrated on the lyrics in this song, go and have a listen, guys. It's if it doesn't make you think about retrospectively and whatnot, um, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but have a think. The bass and drums are again perfect for the song. It's obviously a passion of Joe Walsh's to create color and dimension in songs, which is part of the reason why Andrew and Rock Professor touched on the Eagles thing. I gave this song an 8 out of 10, and never a skip. Rock Professor.
No, I think that's right. I think it, for me, it conjured up a kind of James Taylor type vibe, kind of singer-songwriter thing that going on, that definitely in that period in America, Neil Young, James Taylor, all those people who are producing beautiful records around that time. Again, as you said, kind of that straight kind of drum beat and bass playing, perfectly complements the song. I think it's that lovely arpeggio guitar and how beautifully it's recorded as well. I know I go on about this that that they give them that big sound, they give them plenty of space to work in those acoustic guitars, and they sound fantastic. And this is no different. And as you've said, Brad, that nice electric rundown at the end, kind of that electric complementing the acoustic, which I think again, the little in 1970s, the little things that create the dynamics and the changes in the interest in all of these songs. It's not big sweeping things, is it? It's the little things you introduce into the songs that keep them interesting. 8.5 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. Great, it's great stuff. Andrew.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is where it's firmly in place, isn't it? That this is an album that they were going to use everything that they could have in the studio. This was going to be, a song that was going to be focused around studio songs, and that's okay. That's fine. What did you say this was, Brad? Their second or third album? So their second album. So obviously it was going to be, a little bit more concerned with the production, maybe than they would have with their first album, and I get that, and I'm convinced of it when I listen to this song, because as you guys have said, you got that acoustic vibe going, and then you've got those electric guitars back, again, behind the scenes, behind the soundscape going, and again, very clever the way that they've done that. I like how it dovetails together in that background sense. Again, continuing that whole theme with the second album, with the second side. 8 out of 10, Brad. Never a skip.
Good work. We're right on the money score-wise, most of it. So we come to the last track, gentlemen, of the album. It's a short album, and Ashes, the Rain, and I. Now we talk about albums the way that they on this channel. We talk about it a lot, how the flow of a record is important, and thinking about the previous song Thanks, and then Ashes, the Rain, and I, the way this song starts, it's like it is retrospective. The acoustic guitar intro makes you think. I don't know why. I just sit there thinking about the past, and not in a bad way, just thinking like, the year's gone, and I don't know, for some reason it invokes a lot of thought, and it's a beautiful sound that on the acoustic. There's so much color and dimension in this song, and sonic depth is the way I'm going to put it. Beautiful singing from Joe Walsh. The bass playing from Dale Peters is beautiful, and his 12-string acoustic playing on this is equally great. The orchestration adds like a haunting feel, and definitely something that I feel is game-changing for 1969, really. Sonically, it sounds very modern to me. I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but sonically, it sounds very modern. Sounds like something that would be recorded now. And that draws my conclusion of this record, being that they were game changers with this record. The producer and the way they got these sounds on this record, they paved the way for 70s bands like Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, all of them, all the big bands, Black Sabbath, all those powerful classic rock bands that we look back so fondly on. I reckon they paved the way for them with this record sonically. I give this a 9.5 out of 10. It's never a skip. Rock Professor.
Yep.
Yeah, again, it's one of those composed pieces, isn't it? Clearly, starting off with the arpeggio chord acoustic that just plays, and then it comes in with a second acoustic over the top, and then there's a verse. But the main body of this is the guitars and the way that the strings intermesh with the guitars, and I think the orchestration of this and the way that it intermeshes with those acoustic guitars is fantastic. I think the strings are great. I think they come in and they swell underneath the acoustics, and they give it a real atmosphere and a real, melodically interesting, dynamically really interesting. We've not had strings before on this record, and I think it's a fantastic piece. Mainly acoustic. It's mainly an instrumental piece. Really, there's a bit of singing at the beginning, but not. And again, you've got that. You've got a stop, and then in the middle, and then it goes back to just the two acoustics playing and things. The favourite thing is to stop and do nothing, go back to the very basics. But as I say, for me, the strings come in that woozy kind of way, and they really complement the acoustic playing. And then you have just the strings at the end playing, not the guitars. I give this a 9 out of 10 and never a skip. I think it's a lovely, atmospheric, interesting piece that bears multiple listens and stuff. And melodically fantastic. And again, another composition. My word for this album is composition. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks everybody. We've got to back up Brad there for joining us in the chat. You guys are fantastic. If you're watching on a replay, we really, really appreciate the fact that you've got to this part of the show. It's always a pleasure. We like to acknowledge the people that watch our shows on replays, Simon and Brad. Thank you. We always take time to acknowledge everybody in the chat, but you folks on replay, you're just as important. Make sure you leave some comments on our, if you disagree with what we're doing or our rankings, let us know. If you think we're on the right track, let us know. We'll happily accept any comment or criticism. Brad, 20 years ago, bro, I would have skipped this. 20 years ago, I would have skipped this every time Akuma, every time, mate.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you something, and it's an album that we talk about fondly, and we love, and even the Rock Professor mentioned it in the green room. 24 Nights is coming out, the reissued masterpiece is coming out. And since that 91, 92, 93 period where I listened to Eric Clapton incorporate orchestration into music, put me on a different perspective, Simon, as far as appreciating how the orchestra can come in and do a good job. And rock and roll musicians have done a pretty good job with doing that over the last 20 years. You got some shit examples like Metallica doing it. That was never going to work, Yeah. But so I'm always in debt to the musician or the artist or the album that changed my complete orientation to how I would have viewed a music aspect or a music element in something. So that's my nod to Eric and that album, because when I heard this, Brad, I just thought, like the Rock Professor, wow, this is remarkable. This I never. If you listen to this album, you would expect to get Funk 49 Part 2, wouldn't you, Simon?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
you know, and you wouldn't be, you know, wrong to assume that that was going to be the case. So again, you know, we're not getting that. Joe Walsh is in charge. Well, who's in charge of this band? Was it Joe Walsh, Brad?
Well, I think Joe was probably the when I read up on this band this week, when it came to Joe leaving the band, it was evident to them that Joe was the reason this band was good. You know what I mean? To the remaining members. So I assume that means he was one of the leading forces, if that makes sense. So probably being the lyricist and songwriter, I'd say probably one of the leader, yeah.
I think that it's I've read that they, when he left, they asked Pete Townsend. He said, "Well, get another killer guitar player and carry on." You know, so yeah. I think there was a certain element of, you know, they didn't quite. I feel like they didn't quite recognise what they had in a funny kind of way, and they thought, "Oh, just get another guitar player and carry on." And clearly, they did. They got Tommy Bolin, you know, in and amongst others, and. Never was quite the same, was it? Because they didn't quite bring what Joe brought, which is that breadth of instrumentation and things. You know, clearly being able to play the keyboards, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, slide guitar, all those things that you know he could play.
Banjo,
I think
mandolin,
banjo, mandolin, you know, sing, and then actually that gives it a really broad. Really broad appeal that you know he could play Funk 49, he can play Ashes, the Rain and I, and that's quite a breadth. I'd say about Ashes, the Rain and I that one thing that struck me was that I'm not a huge fan of strings in rock and roll. In general, I shy away in my soul. I shy away from strings in rock and roll.
Yeah,
but they fit perfectly. You know, I think it fits perfectly together.
Yeah, and well, that's the point that I was making in my discussion on it. That you know, there's a point where you have to appreciate it. You know, for the good and the bad. And you know, for me, Clapton was the guy that made me appreciate it, because Simon, I would have just canned this number. I would have just canned it. Would have you know, if it was a record, I would have grabbed my knife and scratched out the grooves, Brad. You know, but you know, with my ears today, with my 33-year-old ears today, listening to it, it's just fantastic piece of music, and I get where you're coming from with Joe Walsh, because when I finished listening to this, I got where Joe Walsh fits into it, and I can understand where Joe Walsh now had such a connection with these English guys, because he understood music completely. He wasn't narrow. And while these English cats were out there trying to expand their music horizons, he already had an expanded music horizon. So can you see how? So can you understand why he was so adamant in saying to Jimmy Page at your introduction, Brad, buy this bloody Les Paul, dickhead?
Yeah, 100%.
Word for word. No, I think it's a really good point that thing about I can play acoustic and I can play electric is very kind of Jimmy Page and Pete Townsend and all those British guys who did all of those, you know, just did it, didn't they, rather than stick to one thing.
Yeah.
Which is,
multi-instrumentalist and not, you know, they're all stringed instruments per se, like acoustic, electric, bass, 12 string, 6 string, whatever, electric, acoustic, but they all take a different amount of skill set. Open tunings, slide, this and that. Like, they're not just because you're a guitar player doesn't mean you can pick up an acoustic and start playing it like Joe Walsh does. Because I certainly can't. You know, I can play electric a lot better than acoustic. I by no means feel like an accomplished acoustic guitarist, but I do my best. You know, we do. But they were able to just go, well, I'll give it a go, and they did it, and they did it really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yes, and as you say, they are two quite different skills, aren't they? To be able to do something on an acoustic is quite a different thing to what you can do on an electric. For sure.
100%.
Yeah. I love the song. I love it. I think it's one of the biggest surprises for me on the album was this song. Brad, I've given this a Brad score. Originally, it was a 9. A couple of days ago, I had to give it a Brad score when I realised the connection of what I think Joe Walsh was trying to do, and how he was above his colleagues in this band, well above them. I'm convinced he was the musical leader of the band.
Yeah.
Loved it. Sorry.
Had to be.
Yeah. Can I bring a bit of humour to John's just sent me something.
What's he sent you?
Hold on. I got to make sure I don't. Hold on.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man. That's fantastic.
I
love it. That's going to be our background for a show.
That's fantastic. Oh dear.
Sorry. We were so serious on this last song, weren't we, gentlemen? We were making some archaeological links and making some connections, and then John had to come in. He had to come in and he had to pull us in. He pulled us back.
Quite right. Yes. Absolutely. Don't want to get above ourselves, do we?
Pull us back.
Oh my goodness.
Cyberman. It's a Greg Roberts as Cyberman. Yes. Lovely. John, thank you so much. That's fantastic.
Awesome, John. Well done. Great
Just what
work.
we deserve.
It's a bit rough and rushed. Well, it's pretty good for rough and rushed, mate. Well done.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the subjects. He's going to blame the subjects. He ain't going to blame him, bro. It's those faces I had to work with.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, not much, is it?
Andrew, I noticed. I sent Andrew. I sent you an Instagram message with a photo of myself and Luke Foley. I noticed someone mentioned something about in the chat. I can't remember who mentioned it, about something to do with Luke Foley, and I thought, well, I'm just going to show you Luke Foley. He'll probably kill me. I haven't spoken
every week.
No, I haven't spoken to him for a while, for a couple of years now, but. I think the lockdowns was probably the last time. But it's funny because 20 years had gone past before we'd actually seen each other, and we were like brothers, even though we didn't go to the same school. And it broke our hearts that we never really were able to see each other daily. But when we saw each other, it was like two brothers, two peas in a pod. And we would just listen to the same music and had I'm sure we've all had a mate like that. And that was in 2016. That's 20 odd years later. He was coming to Melbourne with his partner, his girlfriend or fiance at the time. And now I think he's married now with a kid and stuff. But he come down and it was like, it was like 20 years just was like yesterday. It was like felt like same things, the same, like we were laughing about the 20 years past, but still a rowdy looking bunch of blokes,
Awesome. Yes, that's fantastic, Brad.
Yeah,
thank you, brother.
I say little does he know he gets a mention every blooming week on here.
I'm probably gonna have to at some point talk to him about it, because I haven't spoken to him for a couple of years, and I've never mentioned it to him, so he's probably going to go back and look at all these going, what the hell are you bringing up my name for? I'm trying to keep a low profile. I don't have a Facebook. I don't have Instagram for a reason. He's probably running, he's on the run.
I think it's great fun.
Anyway,
fantastic.
Well, thanks, gentlemen, for humouring me with this album. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you, brother. Thank
fantastic,
you.
Fantastic record. And can I say
Yeah.
this is available on Amazon? It's £11. It's a
Oh,
fantastic compilation introduction. It's got a lot of the tracks that we've been talking about: Ashton Park, Woman, 10 My Garden.
Yeah.
It finishes off with Ashes, The Rain and I and stuff. So it's got loads of them on there. So if you want an intro to the James Sound, that is recommended highly.
Brilliant.
Yes.
So,
But only
folks, the
£11.
Rock Professor's got the pick for next week. So you're going to get Brad and I next week for 2 days. We're going to be ranking this album
Yay.
with our American brothers. When are we doing that, Brad? On the Saturday?
I think it was a Saturday, and I'm back on
Yeah.
the 5150 show. Yep, ranking that one.
Yeah. So
Yep.
go and
Back on the
check out.
5150 show.
Yeah, go and check out our channel, folks. That link is already set up if you want to participate. We're going to be ranking that album with John and Jimmy.
Yep.
And then Rock Professor's going to let us know what we're going to be doing next week on this channel here next week. Is that right, Rock Professor?
Yes, yeah. I have something in mind. I'll talk to you in the green room about it. See what you think.
No problem.
But yeah, fantastic. But the great record. Thanks for that, Brad. Fantastic.
No.
Really enjoyed.
No,
Really enjoyed.
There's the
At least we're not going to get banned for that, are we?
No, we won't get banned. It's been modified 3 times.
Oh dear.
We actually got the photo angles right of each person's face.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. How did that work?
Awesome. Well done.
All right, brothers. Fantastic. Thank you for hanging out. Greg Roberts Tune, man, he's on fire in the chat these days. He's on fire.
Fantastic. Yeah. Keeps getting referred though. That's quite funny. Yes.
And Nelson, did we do a shout out to Nelson? Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, good to see you, Nelson. Mate, hope you're good.
Yeah.
All right, the Rock Professor's going to... Oh, no, Brad's turn. Brad's going to say goodbye to you guys,
Chris.
and then we're going to skadoodle.
Yes,
Skadoodle.
I'll go through the chat here. Jeez, it's been a wonderful little chat session today. So normally what I do is I try to make a note through the show guys to call you guys out and thank you for joining us in the chat. But because I was sort of host or running it today, I thought, well, I'll just have to wing it on the fly at the end. So at first cap off the rank was Derek Clacton. So thanks, Derek, for joining us. Greg Roberts Tune, Ellen Toll, my mother, Simon Williams, that bloke, he's just, I don't know, we've got a band here. We've got Brett Zeppelin in the chat there. We had Johnny Heartbreaker, G. Bucknoff. I hope I pronounced that properly, G. Bucknoff. We have, did I mention Hugh Caldwell? Hugh, thanks for joining us, Hugh. We have got John ZD351, the cheeky bugger that likes to modify all of our photos and do all our artwork. So thanks for that. Tim Thomas, we had Tim Thomas in the chat. We had and also John ZD351 promotes a lot on his Instagram of our channel. So go give him a follow if he's not a private account. I don't know if you're a private account, and I apologize, John, if you are. So, I just sent traffic your way, mate. I'm sorry about that. So I think I've got everyone. Derek Clacton. Yep, I've got everyone here. Well, I think we had a few people. We had one bloke that we won't mention. He got the arse. He got booted out of here. And Holly Lewis, thank you for joining us in the chat. Thanks for joining us halfway through. I think you jumped in there. And that's it, guys. Oh, Quinton James. Quinton, I forgot to mention you. Quinton, thanks for joining us, Quinton. And that's it, guys. That's all I can see there. Oh, yeah. I'm just quickly going through the very tail end, but it's all the same. It's all the same culprits. So thank you for joining us. A wonderful chat. I'm going to go through it all and read it all later. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care, everyone. See you next week. Peace.